TopMedTalk.
Well, welcome. It's Anesthesiology 2021, the annual meeting of the American Society of Anesthesiologists. We are live in person in the exhibit hall at the meeting, and it is really happening. I'm Desiree Chappell. I'm your host, and I'm joined by my co-host, Professor Solomon Aronson. Hi, Sol.
It's real.
It's real. Like, I can believe it.
Yeah, I know.
It's been great. So we've had some fantastic conversations, haven't we?
We have. It's been a day now, almost and a half, going on two, of just, one after another. Great conversations. Live.apom.org. And check it out. But it's been great fun and truly informative.
It really has. We've learned so much, haven't we?
Yeah.
If you've missed any of the conversations, be sure whenever you're in the lobby of the live.epom.org site, you check out the on-demand content. We have all of our conversations that we've had so far. They're already up there in the video form. They're already up on podcast. You don't have to miss anything at all. You can share with friends. You can also find on our podcast channel as well. All of these conversations are going up as we're having them throughout the day.
And you can access it, and it's free.
It's free. All of our content is completely free. Our podcast is free. Saul, TopMedTalk is the broadcasting arm of evidence-based perioperative medicine. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Evidence-based perioperative medicine. I feel honored to be sitting in the seat.
Yeah, I know. Monty usually takes the charge.
Monty, but 25 years this year.
Yeah.
It's been an organization that was launched in the UK and now is international all over the world, U.S., Europe, Asia. So evidence-based perioperative medicine is celebrating its 25th year this year, and born out of that is TopMedTalk, the podcast arm of evidence-based perioperative medicine, which has been going on now for
about
nearly 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Monty and the team have been working on it for about 5 years, and we go to meetings just like this where we're in person. We have conversations with presenters, speakers, members of the organization that we're where we are, and it's always those moments of like when you walk away from your conversation, I wish we could have heard that. We are capturing that, and today is no different. So without further ado, I want to bring in our next guest, Dr. Evan Kharasch. Hello, Evan. How are you doing?
Well, thank you. Very happy to be here. I enjoy these conversations very much.
Well, Evan, you're actually fan fave on TopMedTalk. You've been with us before. I think we had a conversation at EBPOM several years ago about methadone.
We did in London.
Yeah, I still have people ask me about that conversation, and I always reference, well, you should go back and listen to what Evan had to say about it.
And it still holds true.
Yeah.
The evidence is as fresh today as it was back then.
Yeah, that's right. We need to have another convo. I think actually, through the last several years, it's actually even coming up more into practice.
It is becoming used more and more.
Yeah.
I think as people understand that some of the traditional ways that we took care of perioperative pain really weren't optimal, that a lot of patients report that their pain is inadequately treated. Mm-hmm. And the whole concept is to use drugs whose duration of pain relief matches the duration of pain. And the other aspect of methadone, there are practitioners who might want patients to use less opioid postoperatively, and methadone is what we call an opioid-sparing opioid. Because patients who get methadone in the operating room have better pain relief and they use less opioid postoperatively. In an era today where we're concerned about opioid-related adverse effects, if we can get patients to use less opioid but get just as good a pain relief, it's a win for patients, it's a win for medicine, and we can take some of those unused opioids out of the system and prevent their possible misuse or diversion.
Great buzzline. Opioid sparing opioid.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Evan, that's a conversation we will definitely have in the future. But we are here for a little bit different reasons. You wear many hats. So for those who may not know you, I don't know who that would be, but for those that don't know you, tell us just a little bit more about the different hats that you wear.
Well, I'm a professor of anesthesiology at Duke University. I'm also vice chair for innovation, and I'm also the editor-in-chief of Anesthesiology.
I've heard of it.
which is the official peer-reviewed journal of the American Society of Anesthesiologists. It is, by a number of metrics and measurements, the premier journal of anesthesiology in the specialty. Mm-hmm. And our target is not just anesthesia practitioners, but we really want to bring science and evidence-based medicine beyond the realm of anesthesia. critical care, pain, and even to scientists and practitioners outside of those core specialties, because so much of the information that gets published in our journal can be usable by individuals who are other than anesthesiologists.
Yeah.
Trusted evidence, discovery to practice. That's a good byline.
It's one that I'm very proud of.
Tell us the genesis. Tell us the impetus.
The genesis came out of some conversations. The journal had a mission statement, which I inherited when I came on board, but I didn't think that it really captured the essence of what we did and our aspiration. And so our publisher's marketing representative, Michelle Rothenberg, who's a brilliant marketing person, worked with us. And through a series of meetings and iterations, we explored what we wanted to be, what we wanted to accomplish, what we wanted to be known for. And then we started working descriptors. We had a long list, and we narrowed it down. I did a little morphing and influencing as well. And we came up with trusted evidence, discovery to practice. And by that we mean what we publish needs to be of the highest quality, the highest integrity, and trusted by our readers. There's a tremendous amount of information that is published these days. People are inundated. Some of it is better than others. We wanted to put our aspiration out there that we would publish trusted evidence. And the other thing that we wanted to message is what the scope of the journal was. We publish basic science, we publish transitional science, and we publish clinical science. So we wanted to communicate not only what we published, but also the flow of that information. It may start out as basic science and ultimately end up as clinically actionable information for practitioners. Because our goal is to advance the science and the practice of anesthesiology.
Yeah, I love that. It is wonderful to see the evolution of some of those, basic science questions to where we can actually put it into practice and the translation of that over time.
And every month I read the journal and I look at the title and I look at the cover page where it says trusted evidence, and I'm very, very proud of our authors and our contributors and our editorial board and how much they improve the quality of what we publish. But I'm also a little intimidated because we set the bar very high for ourselves. And it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we get over that bar every month and continue to publish high-quality work, continue to attract high-quality work, whether it's original investigations or it's review articles. We're trying to inform the practice of the specialty, and we want to be known as the place to go to for trusted evidence.
Yeah, that's great.
Evan, speak to this through an aerial view. You've been, able to see the specialty through the lens of science because of your role as editor. How has our specialty, or how is the journal as a reflection of our specialty, evolved with respect to quality and quantity of science?
I think our quality continues to improve. And it happens in two ways. One is we try and attract high-quality work. But publishing a journal is we're an educational entity. And part of our mission is to make sure that what we publish is comprehensible, is reached by many individuals. You can publish the best science, but if the readers can't understand it, you haven't succeeded in your educational mission. So we've paid a lot of attention not only to the science itself, but also to the articles, how they're written, how accessible they are to readers. We eliminated the extensive use of abbreviations because that's code. Yeah. Those abbreviations may be known by the cognoscenti in that particular area.
Nice word.
It is.
but they may not be known to the average reader.
Yeah.
And we want our material to be as accessible and understandable as possible. We communicate our content in many ways. We have full articles. We have the abstracts of those articles, 300-word summaries. We also have what we call the editor's perspective, which is a shorter 125-word summary that asks 2 questions. What did we know before this study, and what does this study tell us that is new? So that's, in a sense, the highlights of the highlights. But we also go beyond that. We have what we call visual abstracts. And these are one-frame graphics where the entire message of the article is captured in a graphical format. Those appear online. And we do this to be educational and communicative. We also hope that people may use those in their lectures to help communicate. Once a month, we publish something called an infographic, which is a one-page cartoon, if you will, that takes a very complex topic and distills it down into a single visual frame. Because we know that today learners learn in different ways. The old paradigm of sitting and reading a journal cover to cover is a rarity these days. So we try and provide information through as many channels as we possibly can. We also do podcasts like this one. We do author podcasts where we'll interview the author of an article once a month. As the editor-in-chief, I record a podcast where we highlight 6 or 8 articles in that month's issue. My podcast is now translated into 6 foreign languages and broadcast in those languages. And so with those 6 languages, we're able to reach the majority of people around the world.
Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic.
Cool. What's the call sign for your podcast?
You'd have to go. I don't know. You've turn over the cards.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, because
I go to the website and click on it.
That's what I would say. That's
you can go to the website and click on it. I would encourage you to do that.
That's cool.
I have done though. I've done it. I get the podcast. The infographics to me really that speaks to a lot of people I think in our community because as you said, we're all different types of learners, but now. With production pressure, with, really trying to get to the evidence, I think it's just such a succinct way to communicate. And, we're all at different levels, but, everybody can understand a picture.
Yes. And again, it's not just anesthesiologists.
No.
The other day, one of our recovery room nurses said to me that she listens to our podcasts and finds them very informative and educational. And that's really our goal. I talk to my editorial board and our authors and our readers and the ASA, and I said we want to do 2 things. We want to increase our richness and increase our reach. It's the quality and the value of our content and the size of the audience that we connect with.
Yeah, I think that's great. One of the questions we were going to talk about was, how do you know that anesthesiology is reaching the community? I know you've the anesthesia community and really beyond, and I know you said through podcasts and things like that. But what is the actual reach right now?
It's a great question. There's the whole science of journal metrics these days, and there are many ways that you can measure the impact of what you're doing. So, for example, we know that on average in a year, 100,000 PDFs from our journal are downloaded annually. We know that there's 600,000 HTML views of our content. So it's being accessed by our readers. We learned the other day that not only is our material being used in the States, it's being used around the world. There were 816 news stories in foreign countries last year that cited the journal Anesthesiology. And that's in 30 countries.
Yeah.
There were 133 policy documents in 9 countries that referenced content in anesthesiology. We know that half our readers are outside the United States. So we're really educating the world and helping people lead in their own countries.
Yeah.
There's other metrics, the number of times that your content is cited by articles in other journals. And there's a metric called the Journal Citation Indicator, which looks at how many times your work has been cited relative to how much you put out. And then it's normed across different specialties. And we have the highest indicator in the field of anesthesia.
Which is what?
The Journal Citation Indicator is 2.56.
Excellent.
Nice.
And 1 is average because they're normed across a field. So if you're the average journal in a field of several dozen, your number is 1. And if you're 2.56 times higher than that, your number is 2.56.
Yeah, you're doing
Mazel
good.
tov.
Thank you.
Congratulations on that.
We're very proud of it, but more importantly, we're really proud of our authors and our contributors, the people who use our content, because those are our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Evan, tell us a little bit about, through COVID, we know we've talked a lot on TopMedTalk over the last couple of days about how how anesthesiology has really come to the forefront in medicine and the field. And so tell us a little bit about the journal and how it's been navigating through this year, this 20 months of COVID.
Sure. It's been an adventure.
Yeah.
One thing that we did do, of which we're really quite proud, is we were the first anesthesia journal to publish a specific COVID issue. And if you remember back to 2020, the COVID first epidemic really hit public awareness in March. Mm-hmm. Our COVID issue was published in March. So we had reached out, and in turn our Chinese colleagues had reached out to us. So we had this special issue well in play back in February.
Wow. How has the journal dealt with, all different levels of the quality of the COVID data that's coming out? Because I know, there's been questions about, some of the data, and or I guess really the evolution of the data in research over the last year.
I think that we've been very impressed with the quality of the data that we received, and all of what we've published has gone through peer review, and we don't publish it if we don't believe it's trusted.
Trusted.
Yeah, trusted.
And it's interesting because, when you create this kind of a tagline, if you will, not only are you communicating, but the way that you know that you've communicated effectively is when other people start repeating it back to you.
There you go.
And sometimes we'll send articles out for peer review, and our reviewers will write back and say, this is going to be trusted evidence. Or they may say, we don't think this is going to be trusted evidence. So they have really internalized that ethos and that culture for the journal.
To stay on the COVID theme just for a moment, because, golly, we've been in this for longer than any of us had thought. What, through the lens of an editor, can you tell us you've seen in terms of the ebbs and flows in terms of science and or understanding of COVID as it's evolved over the last 2.5 years through, the penetration of anesthesiology and just our day-to-day practice, whereas we thought one thing in the beginning and it's evolved over time. What are the sort of themes that have come out of the last 2.5 years with COVID?
That's a great question, Sal. Not only have we learned a massive amount about this virus and this disease, we've learned a lot about science. We've learned a lot about how the public reacts to scientific information. Things like scientific literacy, for example.
For sure.
And the fact that people are trying to consume information. Science doesn't work on a linear path. It follows a serpentine path. And it's not a inexorable unraveling of truth, if you will. But it's hard for the public sometimes to understand that it is the accumulated, built-upon evidence which leads towards the truth. But each individual kernel isn't necessarily the absolute truth. The average member of the public doesn't understand that. So one of the roles, I think, of people like Dr. Fauci and like the head of the CDC is the challenge of taking this very dynamic scientific milieu and trying to communicate it in a way that the public can both understand and trust. And what we've learned is that that's a very, very difficult task. But the other part of the answer is that the pace of what we've learned in COVID is unheralded in my career. I know no other endeavor in which science has advanced so fast and so far. I mean, literally within days of discovering the virus, it was sequenced. Hundreds of labs changed what they were doing overnight to investigate it. We were able to develop a vaccine in a year. There are diseases on which we've worked for decades to try and develop a vaccine and still haven't succeeded. So the pace of discovery and accomplishment with COVID has been like nothing else that I've seen in my career.
What do you think that portends for tomorrow
Future.
or the future? What have we learned that is enduring?
In the same way that some of what we learned in HIV was used to inform our response to subsequent epidemics. What we learned in Ebola was used to inform subsequent epidemics. Some of that knowledge has been applied to the pursuit of cures for COVID, vaccines for COVID. There is no doubt that this is not the last epidemic that we will see on the planet. And there's no question that what the accumulated knowledge now added to with COVID will inform our response to the next pandemic.
Yeah. Evan, let's talk about what's new, what's coming down the pike for anesthesiology.
Well, we continue to work on innovations in our mode of information transmission, if you will. This past year, we completely redid our website. It's good business practice to refresh your website every few years. We learned about the ways in which people wanted to view and consume content, and we built it in a way that gives them options. They can look at it, use it in different ways. We have better indexing systems. People can build their own portfolios in particular interest areas. And we're building what we call an author resource center to provide a lot of resources for authors, many of whom may be first-time authors who are sort of standing at the base of this massive cliff looking up, trying to figure out how they're going to climb it, to help them better understand how to write articles.
Yeah.
The journal is sponsoring a session at this year's ASA, for example, on how to be a better author, if you will, the secrets to successful publishing. And what's unusual about the journal Anesthesiology, unlike many, is that we don't just focus on publishing a journal, whether it's in print or online. We deliver a lot of content to the annual ASA meeting as well.
Oh, tell us about some of the sessions that
we had a special session yesterday on COVID and coagulation. We do a special themed session every year. This year it was on COVID and hemostasis. Next year the special session will be on delirium, which is a tremendous postoperative problem. We're doing a session, in fact, in just a few minutes.
We'll get you out of here.
Yeah, we're going to get you out of here.
How people can use information from clinical trials to inform their practice. I'll be giving a lecture later on today, this afternoon, on opioids, for example, a topic which is quite
near and dear,
if you will. And so we're trying to bring a lot of this content to the specialty in many different ways.
Yeah. Just really quickly, as we wrap up here, Evan, what the value of anesthesiology to the constituency of the organization? Talk to us a little bit about that.
We're trying to bring as much value to as many people as possible. I encourage people to explore the website. We hear so often from people that they didn't know. And obviously, we can send things to people. We hope that they will sign up for these kinds of notifications. We send weekly notices of what's been published, for example, if you sign up for these alerts. But we encourage people to go to the website and explore and look at all the different ways that they can access information, whether it's information that they can sign up to be delivered to them, or they can look for information to help inform their practice. But we want to be, and believe we are, the premier journal in this specialty. We want to stay there, but we also want to bring that kind of value not just to the perioperative anesthesiologist, but to critical care anesthesiologists, critical care physicians who are not anesthesiologists, pain physicians, whether they're anesthesiologists or not. We are really trying to increase the scope and the breadth, utility, and the value of the journal to medicine as broadly as possible.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of, I know your very busy schedule, to join us. And I'm sure, being the editor of anesthesiology comes with a lot of, stress, not necessarily stress, but, you feel like you need to do right by the journal. So what are some of the things that, kind of keep you up at night and that you are really concerned about or think about in this?
Good. It's a good question. And we can only publish what we receive as submissions. Our submission base, if you will, in that customer base, is largely, not exclusively, but largely academic anesthesiology. But academic anesthesiology is under a lot of stress these days, and that stress has been growing. And what keeps me up is the future of academic anesthesiology. Many academic departments are constraining their inquiry and investigative and research activities. They're resource limited. They're personnel limited. And so as an academic anesthesiologist, and that's what I am at heart, I want to see the richness and the value of what academic anesthesia has brought to the specialty. We look back over decades and see the improvements in perioperative care, but those advancements just didn't materialize. They came as a result of concerted investigation and curiosity and the creation of that new knowledge. The information that we use today in practice was created before. But if we don't continue to innovate and create and develop new knowledge, the specialty risks becoming static. That worries me.
Yeah. Well, very fair point. Very fair point. Well, again, thank you so much. It's been a fantastic conversation as usual. We will definitely talk more about methadone as well. And good luck with the presentations and all the great work that you're doing here at the ASA over these couple days. So
thanks, Desiree, so much. Again. Sal, thank you very much. I really appreciate being able to come and talk with you.
Well, it's great to be able to share this information with really the world. We have a global audience. So.
And to do it live and in person.
Oh my gosh.
Evan, it's
absolutely.
really good to see you.
Yeah. All
Likewise.
Right. Thanks so much for watching Top Med Talk. You can always find more information at topmedtalk.com, more information on the live.edpom.org site. Be sure to check out that on-demand content. We're all over social media. Cheers. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Top Med Talk. Thanks for downloading Top Med Talk. Don't forget to subscribe via your podcatcher. Don't forget to check us out on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And also, don't forget, Top Med Talk is the broadcasting arm of EdPom, evidence-based perioperative medicine. We'd love you to find out more about that. If you check out edpom.org, you can find low prices on some of the conferences we're organising around the world. Many of them are virtual and don't even involve you leaving your own home. Check out edpom.org now.